Most people, even Christians, are against the establishment of a theocracy. But we cannot do ministry and not build a theocracy. Indeed, ministry to be successful and indeed, biblical, must operate within a theocracy. If we understand God as the highest and most perfect of all conceptions, then it becomes logically inescapable to concede that a theocracy must be a perfect administrative solution. If the rule of God is less than perfect, God is not perfect and therefore, is not God. God must be perfect to be God. God in charge of a failed system is an anomaly. A theocracy that is corrupt and struggling to justify itself, is not under a perfect God. As with so much else, what we have called theocracies are ecclesiarchs. They are governments run by ecclesiastics. Such systems are self-excluding. A theocracy is headed by God, not by politicians addressed by religious titles. The Pope is the CEO of an organization, but Catholicism is not a theocracy. A theocracy is an organization ruled by God. The Bible is the operations manual of the only true and possible theocracy. Every other system possible is operated by law. A theocracy is governed by faith. This is a logically inescapable conclusion, because the law is never perfect and so no system operated by a regulatory framework can be perfect. Only faith can be made perfect. Let us first ask if God can be imperfect. A lot of non-believers question the doctrines of infallibility, omniscience, omnipotence and do on. The idea is that if God does not fulfill one's own criteria, then God is somehow lacking in some area or another. But God's perfection is not determined by human standards of needs. God could wipe all life off the earth and destroy the entire universe and remain perfectly good and just. There is in fact, nothing that God could do, that would make him imperfect. It is often assumed that the existence of evil precludes an omniscient and omnipotent God. It helps to think of God as the author and life a story. In any tale there is a villain, and bad things happen to enable a point to be made and to drive the story along. But these plot lines and twists are not evil in the mind of the author, they are merely story elements. What could possibly be evil about man eating the fruit of a forbidden tree? Why would even murder be wrong? It is not wrong in nature. If a bear should capture a man and eat him alive, this is not an evil act, at least not for the bear. When a man kills another man without warrant, we call it evil, yet to kill the same man as an enemy soldier or dangerous felon, is a good. The Bible tells us to not fear the man who can destroy your body alone, fear the one who can destroy body and soul. And fear not them which kill the body, but are not able to kill the soul, but rather fear him which is able to destroy both soul and body in hell. Matthew 10 verse 28, however, many still claim that what befalls a man is evil as if man was now the measure of all things. But if no harm can befall us, how can we experience good? How can we do works of faith if there is no choice as the only things we can do is good? Would we now not be as God? We have already declared God can do no wrong, therefore man that can do no wrong is commensurate with God. God, to be God, and infinitely good, had to make us capable of evil. If we were not able to do evil, we could not exist. The created thing cannot be the equal of the Creator. God can only be God, God is I am that I am. He is sufficient unto himself. God cannot go against his will nor yet do that which is not infinitely good. God is the highest, most perfect conception. In respect to his own perfection what he creates had to be less than perfect. Yet, what God created was good, other than Adam. All of God's creation was declared good, only Adam was not so defined. But good only means that it conformed to the law. Even now we declare that to be good which is predictable and functional and compliant. Good is a positive term applied to machinery. Man was made for more than this. When we complain that mankind was made with the ability to sin, what we are saying is that we were not made mechanical. For a machine, there is only one right answer defined by the situation it is in and what it is designed to do. This is not so with man. He was not designed for the world. His purpose is intrinsic to him. This is why the law does not work with man. We are not machines, nor are we cogs in a giant machine. As Scripture tells us, man was not made for the Sabbath, but the Sabbath was made for man. We have dominion, which means we cannot be under the law. If we are not mechanical objects nor made to follow law, then we must be allowed to make mistakes. To be perfect there must be a perfect law. But perfect law is not possible either. The law of the jungle works, but for mankind it is a flawed and brutal system in which the individual has no value. Only the group matters. The phrase, the law of the jungle, is often used to describe a brutal, survival of the fittest system where only the strongest or most cunning thrive. This concept is rooted in the natural world, where animals must compete for resources, territory, and mates. In such a system, there is little regard for individual well-being, rather, the focus is on the survival and dominance of the fittest. However, when applied to human society, the law of the jungle reveals its inherent flaws and brutalities. Unlike animals, humans possess intrinsic value, individuality, and complex social structures that demand more than mere survival instincts. The law of the jungle, with its emphasis on might and ruthlessness, is incompatible with the ethical, moral, and spiritual dimensions that define humanity. Humans are not mechanical beings nor mere cogs in a societal machine. Our purpose and value extend beyond the physical and into the realms of thought, creativity, and morality. This inherent worth and complexity necessitate a legal and ethical framework that recognizes and protects individual rights and dignities. The law of the jungle, by contrast, reduces individuals to mere participants in a survival game, stripping away the nuanced considerations that make us human. In a system governed by the law of the jungle, the strong dominate the weak, and might often dictates right. This creates an environment where the vulnerable are exploited, and the concepts of justice and equality are rendered meaningless. Such a system fails to acknowledge the inherent worth of each person, reducing human interactions to mere power struggles. Moreover, the law of the jungle overlooks the importance of cooperation, empathy, and community, values that are essential for the flourishing of human society. Humans thrive not in isolation but in interconnected communities where mutual support and respect are paramount. The law of the jungle's focus on individual dominance undermines these values, leading to societal fragmentation and conflict. A perfect law, one that could ideally govern humanity, would need to account for our intrinsic worth and the complexities of our social and moral fabric. It would balance individual rights with communal responsibilities, ensuring that justice and compassion guide our actions. However, creating such a perfect law is an elusive goal, as human society is dynamic and ever-evolving, necessitating continuous adaptations and improvements in our legal systems. In conclusion, while the law of the jungle may function in the animal kingdom, it is a fundamentally flawed and brutal system for humanity. It fails to recognize the intrinsic value and complexity of human beings, and it undermines the essential values of justice, empathy, and community. As we strive to create a more just and compassionate society, we must move beyond the primitive notion of the law of the jungle and develop legal and ethical frameworks that reflect our highest ideals and aspirations. But given that all known human systems rely on law and all law relies on the power of enforcement, which corresponds to the law of the jungle, how does a theocracy escape the dilemma created by the law? There are a few facts we know. No human is good. Therefore, no human is able to create perfect law, nor can any human follow a law were it perfect. Given the imperfection of humans and the imperfection of his law, there is no feasible path to perfection through any legal system, known or unknown. No human is able to provide for himself in anything but the most limited of ways. Humans need each other. We need to specialize. All progress is directly the result of specialization. To have specialization we need to have faith. Without trust that an investment will be recompensed and also honored, investments will remain at a minimal level. No one will invest time and resources in a project he or she will not reap the just and proper reward. All of civilization and all cultural stagnation can be understood based on this one axis of trust. If we do not trust one another, we will not invest in progress. In our specialization we are perfected. The organism becomes the civilization. The economy becomes the spirit of our new life lived in concert with others. No one is able to perfect life but by being charitable and forgiving the limitations of others, and us, we build something that is greater and more perfect than its parts. But there is a paradox in that the more faith we have in others, the more exposed we make ourselves to those with nefarious motives. The risk that comes with unfettered faith prohibits us from expressing real faith. This is why we need God. Only in God can we truly have faith. If we believe in those who do not believe in God, we have no protection. By believing in those who do not believe in God, we are throwing pearls before swine. Give not that which is holy unto the dogs, neither cast ye your pearls before swine, lest they trample them under their feet, and turn again and rend you. Matthew 7.6. Babylon, the world without God, has recourse only to violence. When the Bible tells us we are under the law, what it really means is that without God, we are under the law of the jungle. Without a means of enforcement, there is chaos. Therefore, the law requires a power hierarchy. This hierarchy can be reduced to the degree the people are compliant. This is the reason for democracy. Democracy permits the state to govern with fewer soldiers and points of engagement. Democracy is a ruse to get the prisoner to comply with the authorities. In a democracy the people feel they have a vested interest in maintaining and supporting the state. However, the potential for violence still exists. As is evidence for this, we can look at Britain in 2025 and other democratic states such as Canada, that quickly resort to violence and other autocratic measures, as soon as their authority is called into question. In a theocracy there is no need for physical coercion because the law is intrinsic to the system. This is what is meant by Jesus saying he has fulfilled the law. Think not that I am come to destroy the law, or the prophets. I am not come to destroy, but to fulfill. For verily I say unto you, till heaven and earth pass, one jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass from the law, till all be fulfilled. Whosoever therefore shall break one of these least commandments, and shall teach men so, he shall be called the least in the kingdom of heaven, but whosoever shall do and teach them, the same shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven. For I say unto you, that except your righteousness shall exceed the righteousness of the scribes and Pharisees, ye shall in no case enter into the kingdom of heaven. Matthew 5 verses 17 to 20. When we conflict with the law of heaven the results are absolute. We may not think we have suffered from breaking the law of God, but we always do, it is inevitable. If we jump off a high building, we experience a catastrophic end. If we jump off a table, the result is not as dramatic, but we still end up jarring the body. The systems of man are exocratic, ruled from the exterior, whereas the creation of God is isocratic. A car cannot run on dirty gas and the world cannot operate on sin. But what is sin in this context? Sin is technically actions that harm or disable oneself, whereas evil acts are those which harm others. When we operate independently or without consideration for others, we do not have the success we would otherwise have. In a theocracy there is direction because there is a single objective. This is why there is a right and wrong in a theocracy, and nowhere else. If there is a right and wrong in truth, there is a single source of truth. If there is a single source of truth, then everything that exists must align to this truth and this right and wrong or be disadvantaged. There is no escaping this logic. Either there is truth, and it is inherent to a theocracy, or there is no direction, no purpose, and no right and wrong or morality. If truth is inherent to a theocracy, then a theocracy is by definition, a perfect system. There is nothing to compare it to or rate it against, but the lies that are defined by the truth that is a theocracy.